Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen, of which I hope there are a few. We are starting our 6th episode of the Standard Bank Top Woman Masterclasses. And just to get the conversation going for everybody who's joining us, we'd love to hear kind of where you're from, introduce yourself by way of your name, maybe what company you're from or industry. I have put, where I'm from, I actually didn't put Cape Town, but I have started the chat in the little chat box on the left-hand side of your screen. So please just share with us any questions you've got going or comments you want to be shared going throughout the masterclass. I'll be happy to share that with the panelists and with all of you. Introduction, I'm Carla Fletcher. I am the moderator of the Top Woman Masterclass. I am also the head of marketing at Topco. And by way of kind of my profession over the last 15 years, I'm passionate about accelerating gender empowerment around the world. So I'm just going to share with you my screen quickly. Here we go. Okay, so today's masterclass is going to be focusing on top strategies to access funding and capital. And this is like a really relevant time, obviously, because we've just had the budget speech yesterday. So I think the timing is pretty on point. Our purpose for an organization and for Topco is really to inspire the world to do good business. And the way and the vision in which we do that is we want to create a trusted network of over 10,000 women-owned businesses and gender-empowered companies. And essentially, the end goal is to link those organizations and individuals together to create, an economic hub and accelerate our economies for growth. We've got some highlights on the calendar this year. I think it's our busiest year ever for Top Women since we've gone virtual in 2020. We are having monthly masterclasses, so you can come and sign up and join us on all the masterclasses if you go to the Top Woman website. We have launched recently the Top Woman membership platform, and I'll explain a little bit about that shortly, and our Top Woman certification program. So some key things that we're going to be learning today are all around funding, and I've spoken to our lovely panelists, so I will introduce in a minute. But we've really put together a sort of robust, topical key learnings that you're going to have. And we're talking about how to create a bigger impact on your business by looking at opportunities in Africa and beyond Africa and exposure to access to those markets. Boosting your confidence when it comes to asking for funding. I think we all understand that confidence plays a big role when we are pitching. Discover the solutions and support systems for your business. We will have a nice government perspective on that as well from the DTI, and to better your strategy for pitching your ideas to venture capitalists. A few of the no-nos and a few of the do-dos. So, and then the financial tips and tricks to help you scale. All right. Apparently, can everybody see my screen? No.
Unfortunately not. Something happened. We were able to see your screen and then there we go.
Now you can, so now you can see it, but it's just in the wrong format. Okay. Yeah. So those were the key things we would learn. Sorry, the calendar was there for everybody. And what I'll do is I'll get the team to make this available to everybody after the event, so we can go back on that. Then I just want to introduce our lovely speakers. Everybody, you can see them. Hi, ladies. Welcome today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to have you on board. We've got Stembile, and she is the founder of Kulasandi Capital. Now, I'm going to sort of let you can read through their bios, but I think what's more important is Stembile is one of the recent board members of the South African Venture Capitalists and Equity Association. She's been put forward by one of our partners as a speaker who is really knowledgeable and has allocated, or not allocated, what is the word, Stembile, that I'm looking for, been part of funding.
Yeah, so they effectively, essentially look after all the fund managers, VC and private equity fund managers in South Africa. They're the association that helps govern that industry and have a lot of industry knowledge and insight into the investment world when it comes to private equity and venture capital in South Africa.
And you yourself have been responsible for what amount of funding that you've been working on?
So I myself, through my entity Khula Sande Capital, have invested in assets over 10 billion rand in South Africa over the years that we have been established.
Fantastic. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Then we've got Lulu Krugell, who's the chief economist of PwC. A long 17 years of experience as an economist, been a very busybody yesterday with the budget speech happening. So we are lucky to have you, Lulu. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm sure you'll be able to share a couple of insights on what happened yesterday in that budget speech and how it affects what we're talking about today. And then I've got Nompumelelo Masela, who has been working for the DTI. She's the acting director of strategy and advocacy at the Black Industrialist Department of Trade and Industry, but she has also been part of the DTI and the gender department or unit for many years. We've been engaging with each other. So I'm really happy to have you on and all your insight and knowledge and wisdom with regards to what we're doing in government. Lastly, I'm just going to go to our social pages so everybody can have a look. If you look at that, we are live streaming on Facebook at Standard Bank Top Woman. So I welcome anybody who's coming in. And for those of you who are in the Zoom link, give a shout out to anybody who's on social to come and join us and not miss out. So that's it. I'm going to stop sharing what was now half of my screen. While I'm busy with that, I just want to, from Lulu to Stambile and Nompumelelo, can I just ask you guys to say a quick hello and introduction on yourselves?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that. Thanks, Carla. As Carla said, I'm an economist with PwC. And I think that 17 years is now creeping up to 19, so I better change that. We as women sometimes feel a little bit sensitive about our age, but I think we shouldn't, actually. And I'm also a partner in our strategy business. And one of the things that we do is to help our clients, look at how do we expand, where can we go, what kind of markets are available out there. And also, what are the things that would make it easier for them and also more difficult to actually do business in certain markets. So that would be part of the discussion this morning. I also think that Nompumelelo will tell you a lot about what is happening that we don't already, or some of us don't already know from a government perspective.
Sure. So as you already said, Carla, I am the founder of Khula Sande Capital, which is an investment entity that was started in 2014. So I was originally an investment banker, having worked in corporate finance and leverage finance. And now I see entrepreneurs almost on a daily basis coming to ask for equity funding. So my entity is an investment entity, and we deploy equity into different corporates. So always meeting entrepreneurs, and I must say that very, very few times have we met female entrepreneurs, very far in between. It's typically old white males that we see that come and ask for funding. We are a BE entity, so we provide B credentials to our companies. So maybe it makes sense why old white males would be the ones that mostly approach us, but would really love to see more female entrepreneurs coming to the fore to ask for funding. And again, as Carla mentioned, also on the board of SAFCA, which is really looking to stimulate the private equity and VC industry in the country. I think the private equity industry is a lot more established, and private equity would speak to investing in established entities. But where we're still lacking and where there's still a lot of work to be done is in the VC industry that is investing in startups. So really looking forward to this conversation and just sharing ideas between the panelists and also with the audience.
Fantastic. Nompumelelo?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I've been reading comments while the ladies are talking. We've got people from Uganda, we've got Malawi, we've got Centurion. So good morning to everyone. I am Nompumelelo Maisela. I work for the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. I see you left the competition out on my bio. So we now end competition.
Okay.
So, my career started in 2003, and unfortunately, I don't know whether it was the timing in the country at the time, I was pushed towards transformation. I think the Skills Development Act had been just released at the time, so I was responsible to actually put in programs and strategies, and therefore my career just evolved into the transformation space, whether it was youth, whether it was women, whether it was people with disabilities, or whether it was the entire, disadvantaged spectrum of the country. So I now work for the Department of Trade and Industry. I've been there for a while now. You're 17 years, and Lulu, I'm coming for you. I'm very closer to your tail. So in the past 10 years that I've worked for the Department of Trade and Industry, which will be 11 in July, we've seen a change in terms of the uptake of business. Particularly, there's a lagging leg in terms of transformation, and that's women, generally speaking. So I'm hoping in this conversation, even though we are here to share with you the opportunities that are available, we can be able to then have some learnings that we can take back and incorporate into our policies, our strategies, our incentives. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. So thank you, ladies. And I think I'm really excited because it is, you're coming from all different aspects of the sort of economic center of South Africa. And I think it's so important that people get to engage with you, and we have these platforms that, and I was saying, we used to do sort of road shows, and we're able to have as much engagement there as we can on a virtual platform. So you have access to all the comments, all the questions. I just want to welcome everybody from Cherry Republic. That's the first
Africa.
Quite a few people in the audience from Uganda as well, Carla.
Yes.
There we go, Midrand, Uganda, everywhere. And that's great, because I think one of the first topics that we're actually talking about is how to create a bigger impact on your business by focusing on opportunities in Africa. But then again, like Lulu has mentioned to me before, not just Africa. Why aren't we focusing beyond there? I know Nompumelelo has some ideas on this. So Lulu, I'm going to kind of put it to you first around where do you see the big opportunities for us within the African continent and beyond? And what are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I think, Carla, the first thing that I want to start with is that we as Africans tend to sell ourselves short sometimes. We tend to think that we are only good enough to do business where we are. And, if you look at the developed world, etc., we're not on their level. And I want to say, I think through PwC, I've been lucky enough to actually engage with some clients and colleagues in the rest of the world. And we are so wrong if we think that we are not good enough. We are in some instances, we are better than some of our peers. I think we need to multitask. There's so many different things that we need to do because, our markets are smaller. Maybe we operate in smaller environments. So we need to actually do a lot more than a lot of our peers. And when we engage with clients that are looking at expanding and also with our counterparts in the rest of the world, one of the things that stand out for me is that we don't have to stand back. We don't have to think that we are not good enough. And I think that has, if you look at the continent that has unfortunately led to us, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do business with each other. Of course we need to. Of course there's opportunities, etc. But we shouldn't think that that is the space that is allowed for us. We can go anywhere. We can go anywhere in the world. We can go to Europe. We can go to Australia. We can go to the US. Of course, it depends on the type of products that you have. If you have fresh products, it's going to be more expensive if you want to actually take them to Australia. But I think that's a lesson, and I learned it from an old white guy that said to me, but you don't have to stand back, and it's a little bit disappointing that I had to have somebody else actually tell me that we don't have to stand back and we don't have to actually keep our thinking just here. And I know that, and again, I don't want to steal Nompumelelo shine, but I do know that government is trying really hard, and there's a lot that they're doing to actually show us where we can take our products, where the markets are that we should be looking at. And sometimes it's not the ones that we immediately think about. It's not the markets that immediately comes to mind. Sometimes it's other areas. I had a conversation with a client the other day, and we were looking at North Africa, at Egypt, etc. And for some or other reason, we don't do a lot of business with North Africa. And there's a lot of opportunities and products that are coming from other parts of the world towards North Africa. And I'm asking myself, why do the rest of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, not do more business with North Africa as an example? So I want to say to the group today, it's complex. With every product that you're sitting with every different environment that you're sitting with, whether it's a fresh product that you're exporting or something that can take a while to actually move somewhere else. Don't stop your thinking where you think the markets are. Be willing to look beyond what we traditionally view as markets. And again, the government has some fantastic ways and means in which they are looking at the rest of the world and potential markets. So, and we are focusing a lot on localization at the moment, which I think is great. But if that is something that you're thinking about, immediately think about how do you go beyond the borders as well? How do you start exporting? I'm going to stop there. I think there's a lot to say, and I actually want us to get to that and get into some of the details.
Can I just come in? I don't know if that's me or if it's yeah, I just want to
Can I just come in?
Oh, sorry, we're speaking over each other, Nompumelelo.
Oh, sorry, do you go on?
Yeah, so I mean, I think two things spring to mind with kind of what Lulu is saying. I think we as Africans need to also think a bit global. And I look at a very good example of a very small country that can actually fit into the Kruger National Park called Israel. And that country has produced so many technologically advanced systems, services, products that they've been able to export into various countries in Europe and the US because they think global. So they provide solutions not only for their small country, but also for the globe. So I think we as Africans need to think global when we're producing or starting entities or services or technology. We need to think beyond our borders because we do have that ability to do so. The second thing I want to mention is the fact that a lot of times, or often what's happened is you find Europeans, Americans providing solutions for Africans. They come into the countries and into our countries and they provide some form of solution for problems that we understand even better. Why are we not providing those solutions for ourselves? So it's a little bit of a contradiction in the sense that I'm saying think global, think beyond our borders, but also there are issues in Africa which we need to solve for ourselves, where we shouldn't be looking at European entities or American entities or Chinese entities for that matter to solve those issues. We understand our problems a lot better. and we understand the intricacies of the problems, we understand our demographics, we should be the ones putting forward those programs, those services, those technologies to solve the problems in Africa.
So from a government perspective, you see, there's so many incentives, whether you look at the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition alone, you look at Department of Science and Technology, all these departments, including provincial legs like your Trade Invest, KwaZulu-Natal, or if you're looking at Westgrow, these are platforms that are supposed to encourage us to be able to think beyond the domestic market. These are programs funded by government to be able to actually make sure that we export more and we actually meet global standards and we are competitive at a global level. But what then is the problem? The problem is exactly what Lulu was saying. Do we have the confidence as business, as women, to be able to take on big negotiations, to submit a tender that is being advertised, let's say, for example, in Uganda, a Ugandan company tendering for a South African contract and vice versa. The issue is, are we able to see the continent grow collectively, or we are all looking at our own little pockets within the continent? And that is where the problem is. We need to start thinking in terms of, even in terms of procuring of services. When we speak business, we must not only look at just the services industry plays a very, very critical role throughout the spectrums of sectors. Whether you're looking at accountants, whether you're looking at bankers, whether you're looking at, civil engineers, those services are needed in the rest of the continent. They are also needed globally. Why are we outsourcing those services that we already have? So government has programs where you can join trade missions. And again, when you set out a call for application for trade missions, which is very, very sad, which I've been doing since 2011, the biggest majority of applicants would be men, regardless of whether they are Black, Indian, it will be men. Women do not step up. And when they do step up, it's in terms of negotiations, there's a lack of confidence. Even when the structure is there, there's a lack of confidence in engaging, in negotiating deals, understanding trade relations. So we need to be able to educate ourselves in those areas so that we can be able to have the confidence to actually step up. We cannot be expecting that, we cannot be expecting that food security and the industrialization of our country is going to come from somewhere else, or our countries rather, is going to come from somewhere else. It has to come from us. Small businesses are the ones that actually grow economies. So that's just the gist of it, Carla.
Okay. Do any of you? I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but I'm seeing a lot of comments coming through, which is really. I can't even get through all of them, but it's amazing to see. We've got people who really are sort of struggling. The one that stood out was Karabo, who said, what about those of us who provide services that in their name are unique to SA, but can be broadened?
Yeah, I saw that question coming through, and I think I cannot answer it here or right now. There's so many different things, but the bottom line is that there are various programs that's ongoing. If you look at private sector, government, there's a lot of other players, and this morning I'm a little bit careful not to mention names, but that is what we're here to do as well. I spoke to one of the universities last week about a program that they are working on to actually provide information to companies about where there are opportunities, and it goes down to a very detailed level. And I think that for me, it looks at a whole bunch of things that I didn't even think of. Culturally, are we aligned? Language-wise, are we aligned? There are certain markets that you might, from a cultural or a language perspective, decide to exclude immediately. Competition in markets that we're looking at. Sometimes we might think there's an opportunity, but there's some other company that somewhere in Europe or in China or in Russia or somewhere, and that has 90% of the market, for example. So that was a conversation that I was just starting to have, and it's so interesting and worrying actually to see how many questions there are coming through this morning. But that information is there, and I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'm gonna ask those guys if it's okay to share their details, because I don't want to do it without their okay. But for me, that really opened up a whole world in terms of not just looking immediately beyond our borders, but also looking further. I see Muhawas, for example, said that there's no databases that is updated and provides info from the private sector. That is, again, I don't, Nompo, maybe you can provide information there, but I think that is not entirely the case. There are information. I just think that it's very difficult for people sometimes to access it and to know where to find it. So I'm going to find out from those guys if it's okay to share their information, because I know they've been working very hard on trying to get that database together, and to just give companies information as to where do you start looking, because I think very often we start looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, but I always seem to talk over each other.
The issue seems to be, I just saw a comment from Mohau saying that, quite frankly, it's access that is a problem. And I'm assuming Mohau is referring to access to information. And he said there's no one-stop shops. In fact, we do have a one-stop shop. It was launched 4 years ago. We've got a one-stop shop that is at the Department of Trade and Industry. We've also then launched this similar one-stop shops within the provinces as well. There's one in TIKZN in Durban. There's also one in Cape Town. These centers are there. They're designed to be able to provide you with information from registration of a business right into your export certification and requirements. And also you can actually use these one-stop shops and the DTI website. We've got sector desks that actually give you reports of what's happening in different countries and what type of markets are. So it's not necessarily that the information is not there. The information is there. It's accessible. What I do find is that maybe we should find ourselves as government migrating into social. There should be a digital transformation in terms of how we communicate. Mm-hmm. Maybe that would be faster, maybe that would be quicker, and maybe the information will actually reach people on demand, because the traditional sense of having to come to the Department of Trade and Industry to access information might also be a barrier. So I do understand what the points that they are raising. Lulu, I'm not sure, what other question did Mohau say?
Well, I think there was two things. The one was access to information, and you just touched on that. And I think sometimes we just don't know, as you say, where to start looking. And I know that the DTIC is doing a lot of work in that space. And also, as you mentioned, on a provincial level, I've been to some of those one-stop shops, and it's impressive. At Trade Investment KZN, for example, where you walk in and they tell you exactly who you need to speak to. So I think sometimes as you say, we just don't know, or it's not communicated in the places where we typically look for information. I think the other question was around, or there was a comment, I'm not sure who made that, but access to markets, and that has been a real issue and a challenge for a lot of people wanting to expand.
Yeah.
And so I think, sorry, I'm taking, I'm not trying to take over here, but perhaps we can spend a bit of time on chatting about access to markets, and what is being done.
Thembile, I don't want to speak over you.
Yeah.
You want to go as well? We seem to have
I just want to address a question.
burning issues.
We seem to both have burning issues, Nompumelelo, which is a good thing because clearly this conversation is flowing. Carla doesn't even have to come in and moderate.
I just want to say one thing from what Nompumelelo is talking about, just for everybody who's listening. We put the links to some of the information that she's speaking about and some of the programs in the chat. So for those of you who are looking, I also see that there's some other foundations that have put some information there, which is great because people are now starting to share a little bit of more information, which is really what we wanted. Nompumelelo, you said in the beginning, I hope we can learn a bit too about what everybody's doing. So that's fantastic. Thembile, let's go with you. You take over.
So I just wanted to address a question that was posted by Newo Musholi around access to markets, but she's essentially saying that how do you even begin to think about other markets if you're struggling in your own jurisdiction? So you're still struggling with your business in your own country. You don't even have time because you're still trying to survive. So I just wanted to address that question because I think it is an important question to address before we move to accessing markets. And I think it's important that you don't have to have a perfect business in your jurisdiction. So that I just need to say that up front. But you need to have understood your product intricately. You need to have understood what the challenges and opportunities are. You need to understand what problem you are trying to solve. So it's not about getting a perfect business in your country before you go out to other markets, but you need to have built out your business model and made it a robust business model first and foremost before you go to other markets. Because if your business model is still being tweaked and you're still pivoting and you're still figuring out what to do, and now you're going to other markets, understand your market first. It's easier. It's easier. It's the low-hanging fruit. You understand your country where you are based. You understand the customer base in your country a lot easier. So try and get to a place where you've got a robust, very firm business model in your own jurisdiction. And again, I'm not saying perfection because I think as women, we often think it has to be perfect first before I can venture into new things. It's not striving for perfection here. It's just striving for something that's robust and firm enough. And once that is done, then I think it makes sense to go out to other markets. So if you're still surviving here and you haven't figured out your market, you haven't figured out your customer base, you haven't figured out what is you selling, etc., I would not advise the entrepreneur to then go out to other markets. I think it's too early, and I think you need to try and get to a point where your business model is robust first in your own jurisdiction, which is easier for you to understand. So I just wanted to address that before we come to access to other markets.
Okay, Carla, there's the access to markets issue will always come up because it becomes chicken egg type of situation where in order for you to access funding to be able to build your business, there's an expectation that you would have cultivated some form of market. You would have been able to produce proof that this product is needed by the market. And then so you find that then entrepreneurs are stuck between a rock and a hard place because in order for us to release funds, we need to see proof of market. And for them to be able to find and prove that their products are viable, they need capital that needs to be invested. So it's always going to come up as an issue. And I think if you look at the program that I work under, which is the Black Industrials Program, one of the critical pillars is access to markets, where we actually assist with both the domestic market and we facilitate for the rest of the continent as well as the rest of the globe. The belief around that is that if we are able to you can enter in the program in any form, whether you want non-financial support. And I know that Adibe is also asking that question of saying, how do I build confidence? Are there any provisions for, do I have to have a degree? No, an entrepreneur is not necessarily has to, your education level doesn't really qualify that you would be the best in business. I mean, if you look at the taxi industry, when it was formulated, which is the biggest industry in the country that is independent, when it started, most of the people that were running those businesses didn't have adequate information. Well, maybe not degrees, maybe not as well equipped as we are now. So you need to, going back to what Stembile is saying, there should be an understanding. When I say please, and this is, I beg, the links that we've actually provided for you will take you to the support for the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. There you will actually be able to understand not only what we offer, but at the same time, it's going to assist you in how to capacitate your business and actually influence your own business and capacity as an individual. There are so many programs and workshops that we do, and there are so many. I mean, we also ran a program for women in boards for about 4 years to try and get women to actually have the confidence to step up.
So I'm going to just step in there because I think one of the things we've all spoken about is that when we're talking about funding, we're talking, it applies, you are competing with the male environment, male entrepreneurs, and what we're looking for is the same in business. There is no difference. I think the one difference that we were saying, and that we know, is that women really are the ones to put themselves forward, which is one of the biggest issues, is actually standing up and moving forward. But Natasha's written here, how do we build credibility and gain access while remaining in integrity across borders? Now, I think I just want to take it a step back and looking at how do we, Stembile and Nompumelelo, when you're looking, what are the really foundational planning, preparing for going into these growth phases of either across borders or just scaling up and looking for funding? What are the principal things that people need to start focusing on long before that time? Stembile, I'll start with you if I can.
Sure. So, I mean, I think essentially, Carla, what you're asking is how do you get yourself investment ready in order to access funding to grow beyond? Is that the right summary of your question? Carla?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I think the first thing is having a vision for where you want your company to go, Carla. And that can be built without you, again, having a company that has been established over 10 years, understanding where you want your company to be in a couple of years and how you want to get there and having a plan. So business plans are things that we all as entrepreneurs understand, and I'm sure everyone in the audience understands that. So having a plan as to what is my vision for this company? How do I want to grow this company? Because when you're going and standing in front of a funder, that is something that is critically essential. They want to invest behind a company that they know has growth prospects, that is going to grow beyond 1, 2, 3 years, and that is sustainable. Because obviously funders are looking for returns, right? And so when they're backing an entrepreneur, when they're backing a company, they want to back a company that will give them the best returns. And how do they get the best returns? Through a company that is going to be able to grow and that they can then sell on. So the first thing is you need to have a vision for your company. Where do you want to go? How do you want to get there? Having a vision without a plan is not good enough. So it's a critical element, understanding how you want to grow. Then there's, of course, the nuts and bolts of the business. So operationally, are you operationally set up to grow your business? Do you have the right team, right? And that's another critical thing in terms of being able to grow your entity. Do you have the right team? Get the right people around you. Again, something that I think we as women struggle with, and I'm also talking about myself here, is delegation. Your business needs to go beyond yourself if you want your business to grow. Fortunately, now technological advances are very, very, very far ahead. And so we can use technology to leverage scaling up and growing our businesses. But we also need other people to come in and team members that can help us grow our businesses. So do you surround yourself with people with the right attitude, with the same value set as you, that are aligned in terms of your vision, and that can help you grow the business, and allow those people to be able to operate without you being there. Because if you want your business to grow and beyond the South African borders and you are wanting to do everything yourself, which is something that most entrepreneurs struggle with, because initially when you're starting the business, you are the marketing manager, you're the financial manager, you're the CEO, you're the sales director, and you need to learn to let go and trust other people so that the business can grow. So that operational structure of getting the right people around you and getting people that you can trust and that can help you grow is critically important. And then, of course, making sure that financially you have a customer base. You understand that, okay, this is the product that I want to sell. And as I said, the problem that you're trying to solve, as I said earlier, and knowing that there is a market for what you're trying to do. Is there really a market for what you're trying to do? Or are you drinking your own Kool-Aid? So really interrogate that business model of yours. And as I mentioned earlier, interrogate it in your own country first, where you understand the market. Is this really a viable business model? Is there really a customer base here? Is there really a market for this? Interrogate that. And when you get the answer being, of course there is, then again, it's easy then to access and go beyond the borders in which you started off. So I'll leave it there, but I think those are the critical things, the growth prospects, having the right team around you so that you can grow beyond yourself is critically important. Leveraging technology is critically important. And then just making sure that you understand your customer base, you understand your markets, you understand that actually this is a viable business model that I have here.
Great, thank you. So, Mpumelelo, before you start, I just want to give everybody, we've got a couple of polls. So while you're talking, they can answer the polls, and it'll just give us a little bit of insight of where some of our audience is in terms of the scale of their business, what they're looking for, what countries they're operating in. So while we do that, there you guys go. You can enter the poll. Nompumelelo, what is it that you kind of look for or prep when you're looking at investment or your programs for them to scale, for them to get funding?
One of the most remember the programs that are offered by the Department of Trade and Industry are quite different. They design for different levels of business, but the one that I particularly work with is tailored for transformation. We would like to see businesses that are transformed, that have ownership that is above 50%. But over and above that, we must be able to see that there's what the Silicon Valley terms skin in the game. We want to see the investment and the commitment from the entrepreneur themselves in terms of how much effort have they put into the business, because providing money doesn't provide solutions. It actually is a risk if the business is not ready to receive the money. It becomes a risk because then it either chokes the business or in some instances it collapses completely. Now, another thing, if we're looking at scaling a business that's already been funded by us, and we're looking at cross-border trading, or we're looking at, we need to be able to understand that compliance is key. You need to comply to South African standards in terms of the Companies Act. You need to comply to SARS in terms of your export certification. You need to comply. Your financial management systems should be in place. Your business plan, as Thembile said, must actually be able to paint a roadmap in terms of the scale of growth of the business. But over and above that, we must be able to see a level of some technical expertise around the people that work in the business, because what Thembile is saying, people might have heard it many times, but it's very important to understand that having expertise in the business and understanding the markets that you're entering into is going to take you far. And that's what we look for. We look at that entrepreneurial drive and that hunger to be able to grow the business, because entrepreneurs are unique human beings because they risk takers, and the problem is the problem becomes when you are afraid to be labeled as a capitalist. If you are an entrepreneur, you must understand that you're doing it because you are interested in making money. And if you are interested in making money, you study that space, and you don't need any. And I think Moha was asking me directly or on the chat to say, are there any studies that actually give you market intelligence? Yes, there are. They are available on the DTR website. So when we're talking about scaling your business, you also need to understand the market performance. You need to understand, if you want to start trading with Namibia, what is Namibia looking for? What are their quality standards? What is it going to cost you to move your product from South Africa to Namibia? What are the trade agreements between South Africa and Namibia? What does the whole SADC impact? All of those things entrepreneurs should be interested in. So I think basically you need to have compliance in place. You need to have a clear vision for the business. You need to have your financial systems and your financial modelings also correct. And we need to be able to see viability.
Sorry, there's a comment here for you, Nompumelelo, from Vanessa, saying she just wanted to add the Black Industrials program is very well coordinated and drives core deliverables to the economy. I was involved in the process in receiving funding from this program on behalf of my shareholders. So just some positive feedback for those.
Thank you, Vanessa. We try.
And I thought you would like that one. So I'm glad somebody has actually gone through the process here. At Stembile, we need, there's a comment here for you. We need, in order to leverage our business, to have spaces where there are women-only pitch sessions where women can network and receive critique, a process of constant improvement of the business model. So maybe, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, but maybe there's something to take away for the future for you there.
No, I mean, I completely agree with it, with that, Carla. We need a better ecosystem to assist women in getting to that point where they can access funding. I mean, we've touched a lot on the confidence element, and some of it is just support. Some of it is having a support system, a support group that allows the woman to get to the point where she is confident. You know, things like putting a pitch together. You know, not all of us would have worked with PowerPoint and understand how to present and presenting skills. It may seem very simple, but things like, how do I put my pitch together? How do I put a presentation together? You know, a lot of people talk about the elevator pitch. So if you can say in a very succinct and short and precise way what you do and why an investor should invest in you, being able to tweak that. So I completely agree with the point that I don't think we have enough of that. And we certainly need to build more of an ecosystem around supporting women as to how do you access funding and readying them for that process through simple things like pitch documents, presenting, confidence, how to engage, how to negotiate. And it's certainly something that I think we can take away to think about how to have more of those in the country.
So Lulu, I mean, you were from a big corporate perspective, we were speaking about how corporates are having to move to be a little bit more agile and understand these business processes. Can you tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, how corporates are interacting with SMEs to understand and help them through this process?
Carla, to be very honest with you, I think a lot of the big corporates need to wake up to the fact that if we don't change, if we're not able to be much more agile than we used to, we're not going to be relevant in the future. And I think the conversations that we're having with each other within this environment, and I feel a little bit arrogant actually sitting here amongst entrepreneurs because you guys you've had it so much more different than we have, and for most of my life I've been in that corporate environment. But one thing that we are saying to each other is that our clients are changing. It's not the big corporates anymore. It's the guys that move fast and are agile and are able to grow very quickly and scale very quickly. That's our clients of the future. So we're trying to, it's not always happening at the speed I think that a lot of us would like to, but we're trying to really change the way in which we engage with companies. There's, first of all, that involvement to say, let's see how we can help you. And I was seeing that there was another question that came through in terms of whether the banks are geared to actually respond to what we need in the country. And I know they're also trying. We're all trying to actually change our business models. To first of all help those guys that are small still, that need to get some of those basics right. We have workshops and various ways and means which we interact and try and share our skills. And Nompumelelo mentioned being compliant with SARS. So these kinds of interactions are great, because one of the things that we take back to them is every year PwC globally does this survey where we look at the tax models that we have in place in different countries. And I think one of the things that we definitely taking back to them is, yes, we're trying to make it easier for businesses in general, from entrepreneurs to your big corporates. But if you're a smaller business, it takes almost half your time just to be compliant. So how do we make that easier? That's a message that we can take back to them. And we're also trying to assist with that. And then I think also one of the things that we've been discussing is that we need to change our business models. And in the way that we interact with companies, the way that we agree, of course, as Nompa said, a lot of us are in it, or we should be in it for the money as well. Of course, we want to have a positive impact on the community, etc. But as PwC, we also relooking the funding models and the ways and means which we interact with these companies. And yes, we cannot always meet what they're coming with, but what Mbile and Nompumelelo has said in terms of making sure that you have your business plan ready, or that you know where you want to go, etc. All of those types of conversations are also important to us.
I mean, for me, Mbile said really understanding your markets, I think, was an important one. And then to Nompumelelo, understanding what the trade agreements are. I mean, we have these fantastic ideas of the markets that we can go and service and who's going to buy my product, but getting into unpacking the logistics of that and the legalities of that, it's the onus is on us to educate ourselves as much as it is for the institutions to make that information available. Some really interesting results, and I want to give it back to you from the poll that we've just done. And one of the questions here was, if you're looking for funding, what amounts are you looking for? And we have about 28% looking for under $1 million. And the majority of people here looking for funding between 1 and 5 million, so about 44%. And then 5 to 10 million at 14%, and over 10 million at 13%. So my assumption was going to be that it was going to all be in the larger brackets of sort of 10 million plus, but it seems that 1 to 5 million is the sticking figure, and therefore you could probably, looking at it from a private sector perspective and government, service a lot more people, get a lot more people up and running in that kind of budget bracket. Again, when we look at what stage is your business in, concept, about 21%, startup is about 50%, the majority of our audience today. Established turnover below 10 million, about 21%, above 10 million, 4%, and over 50 million, about 3%. Then what I found interesting is, where is everybody trading? In what regions are they trading in at the moment? So 82% in Southern Africa, 0% in Asia, 5% in the UK. In the US, we have 3%, Europe 3%, and 3% West Africa. And then majority, the second most, is East Africa at 19%. So I think that gives us an indication that the opportunities are quite, nobody's really tapped into the rest yet, or is it the limiting barriers for success? But and then who are we looking for funding from? Nompumelelo, government, about 40% of people looking for funding from government. Private sector, though, 33%, corporate 12%, and banks 14%. So that was an interesting that was some interesting feedback for us there. So I think what I'm going to do now is I just want to take a couple of questions. We've got some questions in our Q&A because we're rounding up to the last sort of third of where we're at. And this is something as a group we spoke about, and I think all of you can, so we discussed it prior to the masterclass, and all of you can just give a little bit of impact. But Tambu Zai says, compliance is biggest barrier for women in business because of the cost implication of being compliant to be able to access the very markets. So it is more a structural barrier because once one builds resilience and confidence in women, there are compliance barriers. So essentially what we're saying is, yes, it's great once we've built our confidence, but the next round is compliance barriers. I mean, I don't know, Stembile, can you talk to that? I mean, most of the people you speak to are probably already compliant, but what advice could you share there?
Yeah, I think, Carl, a lot of the people that we talk to are actually already compliant. So I think I wouldn't be as best placed. Maybe Nompulela would be better placed to talk about how to get there, because a lot of the businesses we see are established. But I mean, they start from somewhere, you know, and there is a lot of legislation. And I'm talking from a South African perspective that you need to get over in terms of being a compliant business. And often, I mean, an easy thing for a startup to do is to outsource some of that. You don't need to know everything as an entrepreneur. You know, you don't need to try and be the compliance officer as well. You can focus on your operations in your business and outsource some of these things to people that understand compliance and that understand how to structure your business such that you are compliant in an easier way. Yes, obviously it's costly, but then at least you know that you are getting the right advice and you're doing it the right way. So I think we should take the pressure of trying to be everything in the business as an entrepreneur and recognizing that there's other organizations, setups that can assist you in complying and in getting to where you want to get to.
Just out of interest, so that, you know, what kind of age of businesses would you be looking at once, you know, after compliance? Because that is a thing, it's a long-term journey. It's understanding it's not going to happen immediately when I'm compliant. What kind of age would you see businesses at?
So typically the businesses we see are at least at age 5, if not more. You know, so they've been established for a long time, and 5 years is actually quite young in our world. It's beyond 5 years, with 5 years being a very, very young business. So they would have had time to get their ducks in a row from a tax perspective, VAT and you know, accounting perspective, et cetera, and they'd understand what they need to do. And often they would have somebody in-house because they've grown beyond just being a 2, 3, 4, 5-man band. I mean, if we understand here that a lot of the people that we're talking to are in startup phase, I think the better route to go, Carla, is seriously outsourcing. Because to try and understand legislation when you're not a lawyer yourself, when you're not a tax expert yourself, when you're not, when you don't understand ex-con provisions yourself, it's just going to take too much time out of the operations of the business. You need to focus on the operations and growing your business and outsource what you can to people that understand those things.
Nompumelelo, you've got a lot to say here. I can see you've been shaking your head.
Yeah, I do. There's a missing middle in terms of funding in the country, where we find most of the time the cost of actually establishing becomes a burden on the entrepreneur. I think I did mention this in our pre-discussion, that the only institution in the country that is able to provide pre-business development in the country is TIKZN. And I also did mention that even then, you are expected to provide at least 50% of the pre-development. So when you're talking about barriers to entry, so let's say you want to, let me give an example. You want to bring salt from Namibia into the country. In terms of the incorporation of the business, in terms of being able to do a feasibility study, be able to prove the viability of the business, that's going to cost you money. And I did take note and I tried to answer that question. I just haven't posted it back from Tambuza. And there is a need for maybe as a support from the private sector to help. There is a great need that pre-development is not catered for. We do have CEDA that caters for, but the capacity and the need, I think, is above their own capabilities, and therefore other entrepreneurs are unable to access that pre-development support. Over and above that, once you've incorporated the business, I don't recommend, Stembile, not to take away from what you're saying. I don't recommend outsourcing in the very beginning. And I'll tell you why. It becomes a cost burden for a business that has not even generated capital. And if you look at the cost of registering a company in South Africa, it's 175 Rand. But there are people that will charge you 1,500 to 2,000 Rands for a service that you would have paid, and that money you could have pushed back into the company. But once the business starts operating, what Stembile is saying is very critical. You have to be able to understand where your strengths are. And if you are not strong in finance and you're not strong in HR, because those are the things that we would look at in terms of funding, and in terms of any institution is going to look at that. In order for them to risk giving you capital, they're going to look at what systems have you put in place in the company. And the answer to that, it's very, very true. It is a barrier. Compliance and incorporating a company, doesn't matter where in the world, it's actually a barrier, and it's quite expensive.
And I'd agree with that, Nompumelelo. I think at the startup phase, you don't have enough cash flow to, and I think it's a point that Nell also makes in the chat, that, as a small business, you may not have enough cash flow. But certainly when you start generating some revenue, focus on growing the operations and get other people who understand those things, whether it's finance or tax, whatever it is, to do it for you. So it certainly is a barrier now. I agree with you, because you don't get these professionals to do those services for you without paying them something, but it then gives you the opportunity to focus on growing your company. So I agree with the analysis, Nompumelelo.
Lulu, we've got
if I may just add, I think that's where we try and provide a lot of feedback to government, to institutions that we engage with. I think, to Nompulelo's point, one of the things that government has been trying to do is to make it easier to say, you have a one-stop shop where you can go to, and they will tell you everything that you need to. Government has been actively trying to push down the number of processes that we need to go through to actually get a business registered. And it's a key focus. And I think that is where we can play a role, is to give that feedback, and we do that in terms of where we do find, from a tax perspective or from a registration perspective or whatever the case may be, we do find those barriers, and we can give the feedback. Where I think there's some frustration with South African businesses, or I'm going to say startups in particular, is we've spoken about the number of days that it takes you to be compliant. It's not a uniquely South African problem. Definitely, it's something that you will get it in most places of the world. And what is actually heartening from yesterday's budget speech is that this is something that's on the agenda for government, and that we are actually waiting to hear from them over the next couple of months, if not weeks, in terms of how they're trying to make it easier. One of the things that we heard yesterday was just, dropping the tax rate for companies from next year onwards. So that is one of the things that they do. But I think we should also see the good, not only see the frustrations that we have. I know it's frustrating. I spoke to an entrepreneur, and I was actually accosted the other day, where I was told, if you're a true entrepreneur, you will get beyond those things. And it was really somebody that grew his business from nothing, and it was a man, again, so maybe that's a lesson we should take as women, is to say, we know that it's a frustration, but we're so passionate about what we want to do that, yes, again, sometimes passion is not enough, but it certainly does help to get over some of those barriers. And what I can tell you is that give us the feedback. We engage with SARS, we engage with the DTIC, we engage with a lot of players out there where you have the frustration. So keep on giving the feedback. We're taking it to them and we're saying where we think it could be easier.
Carla, just to add something maybe that would help. In the absence of being able to access directly, maybe tapping into enterprise development programs and supplier development programs could also help, because the duty and the obligation from companies that operate within the domestic market is that they should be developing suppliers. So again, this should be like a team effort from government regulating and providing support, but the private sector as well should be able to then say, we have built this company from ground zero and now they're at level, and the chain should, the conveyor belt should keep moving, because it's really costly. And Neo is saying against Thembile that it's very, very frustrating, because small businesses cannot afford the cost of compliance. For example, if you had to take, for example, the cost of actually getting a product tested by the South African Bureau of Standards, it's very, very costly. Being able to tap into the CSIR, being able to get the Agricultural Research Council to test your food for, or your product for human safety or traceability, all of those things are costly. So maybe tapping into enterprise development programs might also be a solution. Actively look for them, whether it's through your social media, or just actively look at all the listed companies in the JSE in this country that operate within the domestic market are obligated to actually develop suppliers. And I know that it becomes cumbersome, but don't give up in applying. Keep applying for these ESD program and supplier development program. We've got a very good, I'm going to just give a very, very good shout out to one of the companies that we work so well with in the automotive space. That is Sandvik. Sandvik as a company has helped us develop our suppliers through our Black Industrialist program, but not for the South African market alone, for the Sandvik Global. And if you think about where we started, we started 5 years ago, and our first trip to getting them to comply with Sandvik Global only happened in 2019. And in 2019, we were only able to onboard 3. So there is opportunities out there, but just actively look for them. And if there's any barriers, engage government, engage departments, and notify. I know it's very frustrating when people think that when they call government departments, they're not going to get the services that they require, but keep engaging, because that's how we improve, and that's how we actually are able to then streamline our processes to make it easier for you to do business in the country. It's in the best interest of government, by the way, for businesses to grow. Yeah. It is not in our best interest for businesses not to grow and thrive. And if we have an opportunity to remove barriers, allow us to do that.
I just have to echo what you're saying, Nompumelelo, about enterprise development programs. We had the last masterclass we had last month with 2 of our winners. One was Celeste Leroux, who won the Entrepreneur of the Year award. And one of her big key sort of golden nuggets to success was embed yourself in other companies. You may not need to. You may not be able to charge for your services, but find a way in which you can provide services to them where they can help you with your services, i.e. compliance, finance, etc., which was one thing. So I really, and it was echoed a lot in terms of that. And like you say, we work as well, Top Woman works, a lot of these organizations who are putting themselves creating enterprise development, skills development. So if you look on the Top Woman website and you go to the companies listings, these are the type of companies that are getting involved in enterprise development programs that you could speak to, and particularly around gender empowerment, around empowering women and upskilling women. So I think there is a big focus on it. There may not be enough, but there is something, and there are partners, and seek it out. Look at people within your sector that could assist you. So I just wanted to add onto that. I've got a question here, Lulu, that's saying, my observation is that, and it probably could go to all of you, but my observation is that the funding market is actually shrinking, if I may put it that way. Funders are more cautious than ever before now. Some are even cancelling deals that they approved before. How do we reconcile this reality with the needs of emerging players, especially women?
Yeah, it's the challenge is that the irony is that people actually, there's a lot of money out there that's looking for a home at the moment, but everybody is cautious. I think we've seen that where we've engaged with our global teams as well. You know, if you look at VC, at the VC market, private equity, etc., investors there, they've been holding off. They've been waiting to actually get more information. And in South Africa, in particular, that has been truer than ever. So although everybody's wanting to put their money somewhere, they're waiting to make that decision. I do, however, think it's going to change, and it has to change soon, because companies can't continue to sit on money. They have to invest it somewhere. And there's definitely, for me, I've seen a massive shift, and globally we've seen a massive shift where the number of listed entities are actually shrinking, and we see more and more companies moving into the VC or private equity space where they are looking for places for their money to go. So I honestly, I understand that companies have been holding back and wanting to see what's going to happen in the economy. We're sitting with a lot of questions at the moment, but I do believe that barrier has to break at some point, and hopefully we're close to that. Stambile Nompumelelo, I don't know what your view is, but that is definitely a conversation that we're having. So give them as much as possible information about what you want to do. Give them as much as possible insight in what you want to do. I really do think that there's a lot of them that are ready to invest in companies, and there's a lot of what our guys call dry power that's out there, or dry powder that's out there, that is looking for a place to go.
No, I mean, I think you touched a very critical point. I mean, the only thing that I'll add is there's always money for a good business. So although I agree with Lulu completely, there is a business confidence, especially with COVID, has been at quite a low recently, and it's improving now. We are also seeing emerging market interest improving. During the COVID times, emerging markets were seen as being risky, and everyone was kind of putting their money in developed markets. But the sentiment towards emerging markets, because of the fact that people are looking for returns, which because of the low interest rates in the developed markets, people are now flocking back into emerging markets. So there's some structural issues, because before you invest in a business, you also look at the country in which the business operates. And is this country, the economy, conducive for this business to grow? And so, there's some structural issues that obviously need to be taken care of in order to have a more conducive environment to allow businesses to grow. But like I said, if there is a good business, investors will back that business in good times or bad times. COVID has exacerbated this need of having to sit on cash, because there's a lot of uncertainty as to, will this business actually grow post-COVID? Will the business model be sustainable post-COVID? Valuation discussion, which is a typical discussion that you'd have as an investor with your investee company. So when you're trying to invest in your investee company, you'd say, okay, how much do I pay for you? Those conversations are becoming more difficult with COVID because of the uncertainty.
And so you're seeing a lot of investors saying, okay, let me just hold off and see what happens and how the world looks after this before I then deploy my capital into these assets, because there's valuation gap discussion between the person trying to sell a business and the person trying to buy a business. So there is cash out there. I certainly do think that if it's a good business, you'll find the money, that business will find a home or an investor. But it is tough out there. I think we can't discount the fact that it is a tough environment to raise capital. We can't overlook that at all. It really is, Carla. Yeah.
Agreed. So I'm seeing there are, and this is amazing because it's probably the session that I've had the most questions, and they're long, long questions.
Very long.
And I can see all the panelists are dying to get the answers. So I am going to say this. I will, if Lulu and I see Nompumelelo have given their information there, ladies and or gents, depending who's asking, but please just drop a line to them and perhaps they can start to answer your questions. I don't think we were expecting as many people to comment, which is great because I've hardly had anything to do today apart from listen to all the wisdom that everyone is imparting. But there was something that I wanted to mention where I see somebody has had a turnaround. Samantha, as you're speaking, I realize I can even export these items outside SA and not only do government departments in the Western Cape and see an opportunity to move and grow. But she does need assistance with this. Where does she start and who can assist? I don't know if any of you are able to answer that.
Definitely. That's why I was getting a bit overwhelmed. I was trying to answer and I realized there's just too many questions. So I saw Samantha Oliphant's question and that's why I put my email, because we would be the ones that would help you with market exploration. We would be the ones that help you actually find a good new market lead. So just drop me an email. I do want to touch on the shrinking amount of investment and funding in the country, Carla, because I think it's an important question. Money is available. Money is available in the country. The only thing that is a problem is that there's expensive money and there's government money. And you find that the barriers for both government money and expensive money are probably the same, in the sense that we have to put in place criteria that are going to ensure that there's value for money in terms of spending taxpayers' money. And therefore, that becomes a problem for individuals and entrepreneurs to tap into this, because they have to be compliant to our economic benefits, and also they should be compliant to the mandate of government. On the other hand, private money is quite expensive and private money is easily available. The only problem, again, is the compliance. You need to be able to understand that on both spectrum, you can access money from the National Empowerment Fund, the IDC, the Growth Fund in Itala, in KZN. There is money. It's entrepreneurs' readiness that becomes an issue. You need to be able to understand what the Department of Trade and Industry requires, and should you not be able to get help, use the provincial legs of our offices to be able to capacitate your own business so that you can be able to tap into money. It hasn't shrunk. The only problem is it will continue to shrink if there's not many uptakers. And Stembile is correct. From a private perspective, you'll find that it's going to be much more difficult to access money, based on the fact that COVID actually has made the market a bit unpredictable. We can't predict what's going to happen with the current pandemic. But I must emphasize that money is available. It's compliance that's always the issue.
we're gonna wrap up in a minute, but really, I just wanted to take an opportunity for two things. One is to look into your own crystal balls of the future. What are you seeing within your specific area of professional expertise, the positive things or a positive outcome from 2021, or that you would like to see from 2021, that with regards to funding women-owned businesses, or getting women leaders out of, marketing, not marketing just in South Africa, but beyond. So I'd love to hear from you. I don't know if anybody wants to go first, otherwise I'll nominate one of you.
Can I go first? It's a very interesting time. When the first lockdown was announced, I actually said to a friend that it's going to be very interesting to see how innovative this country becomes. Because during wars and pandemics, that is when true entrepreneurship is tested and built. Because the innovation, it's never going to be business as usual ever again. So we need to be able to understand, and I'm looking forward to the birth of new millionaires, the birth of new innovators, whether it being tech, services, whatever that the country needs, or whatever that consumers need. It is an interesting time. But just to be very specific, I've actually seen, even through our applications, where the traditional way of doing business has changed. And I'm looking forward to seeing more women come into the space. People have had to be forced out of their comfort zones and be able to then explore new ideas. And government has been trying to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, knowing that this is not normal. How we now operating is not normal, but it's quite exciting. I've seen a lot of app developments, and there's actually a young lady that actually did an app during COVID-19 of price comparisons, and it was trending for 2 days on social media. And these are the exciting things that are coming up. I mean, we are definitely moving and are forced to actually go into e-commerce. It's not a choice anymore. We are forced to move towards e-commerce. And this for me is very exciting.
Yeah. Carla, I was going to just say that let's not forget that businesses are born out of recognizing problems and issues. That's how businesses are born. So there's always opportunity in tough times. Again, we can't discard the fact that the world globally, because of the pandemic, South Africa is going through tough times, but there's always opportunities in those times. And real entrepreneurs will spot those opportunities because they'll try and solve those problems. What we've been seeing in the private equity industry is a lot more activity. I think when COVID hit initially, it was a little bit slow because of the great uncertainty. But you're seeing a lot more activity around people coming now and saying, actually, I want to engage again around selling my business. You're seeing a lot of opportunities in terms of foreign investors also saying, hang on, we can get better returns by investing in emerging markets rather than investing in developed markets. So a lot more interest as well from foreign investors. One of the comments that came through is you're seeing a commodity boom, in the country as well. And so we can benefit from that. The dollar weakness. So all these things that have been brought about by the environment in which we operate have in some ways poised us as a country to be able to receive foreign investments. Whereas before COVID, foreign investors were not really too keen on us, and Lulu can probably talk to this more. So we're seeing a huge pickup in activity in terms of businesses saying, okay, I'm ready for investments. Foreign investors saying, I want to have a look at what I can invest in the country. So as we mentioned, there is money out there. There is opportunity out there. Don't let the problems bog you down. Look at the problems and see how can I solve those, because there is opportunities out there.
I think to add on to what Stambile and Nonkululelo has said, we've seen an interesting dichotomy where our traditional businesses, mining and agriculture, have been doing really well. And the additional tax revenue that's been coming to government has been coming from those sectors. But at the same time, and those are sectors where it really depends on where you are. You can't do, if the stuff's not in the ground, you can't create it somewhere else. So I think we are looking with new eyes at those sectors. We, for a long time, have kind of, I won't say written them off, but maybe moved them to the background a little bit. And then on the other hand, there's a massive focus on technology type businesses, the platform economy, services that Nonkululelo has mentioned a couple of times, that's not bound to a particular place and that you can do actually from everywhere. And I've heard one of our telcos companies the other day saying that, that they believe that we've moved 5 years forward as a country in terms of implementation of a lot of those things because we were forced to do it and we saw that it is in fact possible. So I want to say that, there's the established industries, mining, agriculture, there's a lot of interesting opportunity there, which we've ignored for a long time. And if you can look at solutions, and we were talking the other day, the retail sector, for example, is doing really well from the online side. But should you be looking at the retail sector, or is it about providing solutions to the retail sector? And I think it's the latter, and it boils down to what Stambile said. The opportunities are to make money is where other people are seeing challenges and issues, and that is where we should look.
And that's exciting. I'm excited, and I know there are a lot of problems, but that means there's a lot of opportunities for us as a nation to solve, and that's what we do. That's what's made us resilient and who we are. So I want to thank everybody for their time, and just give an opportunity to you guys to just say any closing remarks, a quick two-liner closing remarks for everybody before we cut off. I do want to say to everybody who's asked questions, some of us have put our email addresses in there. I've put mine. You're welcome to find me on LinkedIn. If I can connect you with any of the panelists, I will do so. Some people have asked about connecting with one another. We do have a membership platform where we are building up to do that, and where people can get access to more of our events, and all those sorts of things. So, and there we get feedback from you around what type of things you want to hear, what challenges you're having, and we create that for you. So my team will pop in on the chat. There you go, the membership link, and you can all access that and become a member, and you'll see some things start to happening as we go. So ladies, over to you. I'll go in reverse. Lulu, last comments?
Please do email me those challenges that you see. As I said earlier, PwC is involved, in particular the tax aspects of the doing business report, but we do give feedback on anything else. So we might not, come back to you as a company and say that we've resolved this, but we gather that information and we give that feedback through to SARS or the DTIC or whoever the case may be. I did put my email in the chat function, lulu.krugel@pwc.com. So please do drop me a mail. And I also want to say to you guys, I'm married to an entrepreneur, and I know it's somebody that started his own business a couple of years before COVID. So I know it's not easy at the moment. Just keep on going. I'm sure it will get better, and we will see a change in direction pretty soon.
Thank you, Lulu. Stambile?
Carla, I'm just going to actually repeat what I said in regards to the fact that there's opportunities out there, and so let's look out for those opportunities. It's a tough environment, yes, but it is also an environment where can be a lot of opportunities that we can identify. And yeah, let's keep going. The entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one. It requires a lot of perseverance, a lot of blood and sweat, but it can also be very, very rewarding. And I think that fear of failure sometimes pushes women back in terms of wanting to try and go down the journey. And it's understandable. It's a very, very daunting journey. And not a lot of people can walk down that journey. But as Lulu said, keep going, and the rewards can be very, very fruitful.
Thank you. Nompumelelo.
This has been a very interesting engagement. And what's motivating me is how many women, I've been going through the chats, who are thinking outside the box in terms of doing business. Discussions on 4IR, discussions on how do we improve our own abilities as women. My message in my last comment is that we need more women to step forward in terms of applying, in terms of taking positions in boards like Stembile. We need to be able to also allow, make space as well as women. We need to make space. I can't sit on 3-4 boards. I need to be able to pull somebody else or mentor somebody else. We need to create that platform, and that membership that you shared is that exact platform that we need. I think that I take away from this session that as government there are stuff, many issues that we also need to address from our perspective. And this gives me a good opportunity to incorporate those as we're going into policy review. So thanks for everyone that has attended. I'm really, really impressed with the patience. I mean, we had a good turnout, Carla, I think.
No, it was great. And that was my last thank you. My thank you is actually to everybody who joined, because as much as we understand you all have your challenges, you've come here positive, you've come here with insights, you've brought a lot of questions. The engagement has been absolutely phenomenal. I'll be spending some time after this reading through to see how we can create something to continue this conversation. I think somebody said it was a lot of information to pack in a small session. I had a feeling it would be. And perhaps we'll be seeing some of our panelists again. I hope so. They've been fabulous. So thank you, ladies, to join us for future discussions around this. I really appreciate your time. I know you're all very, very busy, but I hope you also got some value out of this. Thank you, everybody. So cheers and enjoy. And here's to a great 2021, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Carla.